Manya sarva sede hong pakyuke kodan da gelu pakyuke sundan da genga pakyuke tukdan da geyi yerme çıktı çingil makyuke kodan da gelu makyuke sundan da genga makyuke tukdan da geyi ten yerme çıktı çingilo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Soha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svoha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svoha Sangye chodan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki rola pinchira sangye drupara shu sangye chodan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki rola pinchira sangye drupara shu sangye chodan tsogi chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye druparashu.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Good evening. Today, I wanted to begin by getting right to the point. Normally I make long introductions, and then often I don't actually get to my point. I'm taken by these long introductions. But anyway, it still needs a small introduction, because before talking about anything, it's important to understand what we're talking about. And this is fundamental, because otherwise we end up often often that we're talking about the same thing, thinking that we're talking about the same thing, but actually we're talking about two different things. I don't know if it's ever happened to you that you you know, like maybe you're talking you think you're talking about someone, but two people are talking about they're thinking about two different people. So at the monastery of Sera, it was common before beginning a debate session, we would give a definition. So, for example, if we're going to talk about tables, define table. What is a table? It's an object it's an object with a form that can be square, rectangular, or round, and has legs. You know, It has legs to support its top, and it's used to, support objects. And then at that point, we can start talking about tables, you know, uh, various forms, etc. Once I was talking about with I was talking to a family friend um, at a family party, and he was talking about art, and I asked him to define art. And at the time, I was asked their definition. I said it's an expression of thoughts and feelings in matter. One tries in matter, can be sound, or a writing, or a painting. One tries to show concepts and feelings. And ideas. That's the only thing that I found. But that's not the subject about today. But I wanted to talk about the definition of a word that we use often, maybe less than what would be useful, but it's an important part of our life. And it's the word is death. Because when we say he died, what does that mean? What's the definition of dying? What does that mean that someone is dead or will die? Because if I ask all of you, will you die? Tell me, what's the answer? Yes. And it was a taxi driver in Rome who made me think about this. When he looked at me, he said, "Who are you? What are you dressed like that?" And I tried to explain a little bit, and then was even um, he was even more confused. And then he looked at me and he said, "Well, like, do you believe in death?" And then I thought, well, what does that mean? What does he mean by death? And I said, if death you mean that the continuation of my mind at a certain point, that it leaves my body and continues, then no. But if you think that it's the end of everything, then I don't believe in that. So I'd like to start with this concept. What is death? Because it's something that is part of the life of everyone. We don't talk about it because, it brings bad luck. We knock on wood. And maybe it's hard to face because we don't even have the courage to look at it look at it straight on. And in the face, once I was thinking about this, and I was thinking for a long time about the definition of death, and are clear um, there are clear and definitions, technical definitions of what death is within Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy. Um, but I'd like to go beyond that. First of all, it could seem strange what I'm about to say, but death is a concept. And let me try to explain myself better. Let's take this object, this glass. When did the glass come about? When was it born? When at a certain point there was sand. This sand, was heated to a certain temperature, became glass, and then it was put in this glass, and someone gave it the name glass. It was characteristics and functions were attributed. So when this object, took this form at that moment, we can say that it became that, it was born. But this object will die too, won't it? If I, you know, you know, if I can break it into 1,000 pieces, then is there glass or not? No, it's not there anymore. When I break it up, the glass ends, it dies. But is the material, the glass, still there? Is the water that was inside still there? Yes, but it was not in the form as before, and it doesn't sustain the functions and the characteristics that were attributed to it before. So once that object who's was given a name. A name means characteristics and functions. Once it is no longer able to uphold those characteristics and functions, then it is no longer there. But it's not that it ends; it just transforms because the glass, you know, the material glass transforms into something else in the water too. I mean, something will happen to that water. Just think about, it was told to me anyway, that the the quantity of water on the planet is is always is stable. It's beautiful to think that. It's a little bit worrisome on one hand too. It's not that the water just gets used up, you know. Maybe there are other environmental problems. It doesn't rain when we want it to rain, but it's not that something ends. It transforms. And for it to come back as it was before, it needs to retransform again. So when we say that something ends, this concept of ending is a name, of value, characteristics, a name that's attributed, and at a certain point, it can no longer be sustained, and so that thing is over, is end. It doesn't mean that there's nothing. It means that what was, that basis, that held up that name is transformed into something else. There's continuity. Like when there's, like a birth doesn't come from nothing. This glass, before was sand, I imagine. And with 1,000 things that were done to it, is transformed into what we call this glass. We can use this phrase like nothing ends. Nothing ends. Nothing is created. Nothing ends. It just transforms. Energy, for example, it just is transferred. That's amazing. But some, sometimes we think that like an energy, like a nuclear energy plant creates energy. No, it's not created, but it gets transferred. It's transformed. So nothing comes. So there's this transformation. Things don't just end in nothing, and so this transformation is such that it's no longer able to uphold that name. So if I call this, like the matter of can I call this a piece of glass? And if I break it, it'll still be, it will still have that name, like the glass. Even if it made a huge transformation, but we can still use that same word of glass, but not like cup, but like the matter of material glass. Here we have people of all ages, but think about time think about time in the past, maybe 10 years, maybe 30 years past, and let's try to remember ourselves in a different period of our lives. How was our body? Was it the same? What about our mind? Our identity, was it the same? Looking back, was that the same person, like the union of body and mind? I wasn't the same one. If I were to find myself of 20 years ago in front of me, I wouldn't say that I'm the same person. Does anyone see themselves as the same looking back? But in the same way that the glass breaks into pieces or changes color. I mean, if there's an identity like glass, if it, this name can maintain itself in spite of small changes. And when we look at ourselves, we can feel and perceive our an identity of ourselves. There's like, our identity from the time we were born. from the time we were born to now, we can look back and we can feel that it was us, even though our body has completely changed. So technically, what happens when at death? At a certain point, the course, the gross body doesn't work anymore, for whether be it from a sickness or simply, one has used up all the parts. My grandfather's in the hospital now. He's 98 years old. He's not sick, he used up his body parts, the pieces are starting to show signs of problem. His um, aortic valve is having problems, for example. But at a certain point, what happens is, regardless of the reason, from an accident, from a sickness, there's a moment where the body is not able to work anymore. And when this gross body stops working because this balance of all its parts doesn't work anymore, then also the subtle body, we can call it energetic just to simplify, but our subtle body actually, these are physical aspects of our body that cannot be perceived by just our by our eyes, like the flowing of the blood and the impulses of our nervous system. So there are many aspects that we can't see with a nude eye. I don't think you can, not even with a microscope. I mean, there certainly are means to see them and to perceive them, but the nervous system, in the Tibetan Buddhist system, this nervous system, we refer to it as inner winds. So there's a subtle body, and when the gross body it doesn't work anymore, then the subtle one doesn't either. Because something to say, the body and the mind go always together. I have a point of view that can be maybe a little extreme, but in my opinion, there is no body and mind that are separated. There are two manifestations of the same. They cannot be separated. In Tibetan, there's a term, we say, no chikleta patate, when two things are of the same nature but have two different appearances. They're of the same nature in the sense that if there's one, then there's the other. If there isn't one, then there isn't the other. But they show two different appearances. It's like taking a piece of paper. You have two sides. If you have a front, then you have a back, and if you have the back, you have the front. But so they show themselves differently. They're two different things, but they're the same nature. So body and mind, they're of the same nature. What happens to the mind happens to the body. What happens to the body happens to the mind. And this happens on a gross level, on a subtle level, and also on a very subtle level. So when the gross body loses strength, then also the subtle body does. And if someone has a ictus or eats too much, that influences the gross mind. When one is too worried or gets angry, anything that happens in the mind has an influence on the body. They are not two separate entities. In the process of death, the gross body loses strength, and the subtle body manifests itself with more clarity until it loses strength too. And what is left is the very subtle mind together with the very subtle body, and which it leaves this body and goes to the next body. It does. Then it has a physical form that's more subtle, and then at a certain point, when one takes rebirth in another form. I'm simplifying too much, but it's technically when the very subtle mind leaves the body. This is death. When I said that death is a concept, it's because what is death? It's the moment in which the body is no longer able to uphold the you know the gross mind and body. But it's not the end, but it's the gross level identity that we have. But if for me that continuity, the continuity after death, if I think that there's nothing, I mean, we need to see, we need to see what we mean, But there, at a certain point, this body will stop working, so you can call that what you want, but even if I have a total amnesia and I don't remember what has happened up to today, from yesterday, it doesn't mean that it wasn't me. Even if today I do, wonderful things or stupid things, and then tomorrow I won't remember, it doesn't mean that what I'm doing today will not have an influence on tomorrow. If today I do things that hurt me, and I wake up and I don't remember what I did, I'm going to live the result of what I did, won't I? Sure. So in this concept of continuity, there's a fundamental concept at the basis. Every moment connects to the preceding one and the one that comes after, like a chain. It's not that they're disconnected. There's a continuity. So what I do today, whether I want to or not, whether I'm aware of it or not, is going to have an impact on what I am tomorrow. And what I live today is a result of what I have lived up to today, whether I remember it or not. Sometimes people say, well, how can I believe that there were previous lives if I don't remember? And I would say, well, well, and then I say, well, how can I be sure that there were days in the past, if I don't remember them? I mean, how many memories do you have of your childhood? What about the first 3 months of your existence, your childhood? You don't remember? Okay, then they didn't exist. No. The point is that I'm very convinced that there's a continuity. And the question that I ask myself, just let's look at this life. Let's leave the concept of death on the side. I mean, what I am today is the result of what I've done up till today, and the people that I've met, the things that I've done, everything that I've lived up till today, most of that no longer exists. There's some things that I'm still living, but most of the experiences don't exist anymore. For those who are a little bit older, they can see that within a lifetime we have more than one lifetime. If I look back, and I see about 5 lifetimes, 5 periods, that some connected, some not. The point is that when we do something and that situation ends, that situation just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's no longer there, but we're still influenced by it. It's a little bit like when we talk about traumas of the past. When we face a trauma, for example, from our childhood or any other time in our life, when we talk about childhood traumas, it's not really important what happened or what didn't happen. It's what's important is how that person lived that experience. Because if at that time I lived that left me this mark, that's what I need to face. You know, you know, it's useless to say, oh well, nothing happened. No, if I lived it like that, and I live that, and it leaves a mark on me today. So what I mean to say is that experiences end, but the way those experiences are lived, that that inner experience shapes our being. The experiences that we had as children, they influence greatly, who we are. Those situations don't exist anymore, but they have influenced us. So in this chain where there are the various experiences, etc. There's something that begins and ends the actual experiences, the people we meet. Today we're here, and when this event ends, each one goes home, and it's over. But what stays? Our being, the way we are transformed, one we're in constant shaping ourselves. We're in constant transformation. So the moment that we will die, so a large part of what we see today as me will no longer be there. This body, this name, won't be there either. It's not that the child is born again and say, oh, look who it is. No, our 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 theoretical knowledge, our concepts, those end too. Otherwise, I mean, children wouldn't need to go to school. The knowledge, our image, our power, our material possessions. The recognition, but there is something that continues. Since nothing ends, it's transformed. So how does this all transform? What I believe strongly is that at death, what continues is quite similar to what continues in this life, in this lifetime. So, like from the time we were children to today, it's not the same body as before. It's not the same mind as before. But if we observe, we have different aspects of our personality, that we've always known as long as we've been able to remember. And sometimes, I really worry when I started looking at myself, and I saw that most of my traits that I think are positive, I had those when I was a child. And so I think, what have I done in these last 40 years then? I'm living off of what I inherited, because, I was always like this when I was a child. So, but at least, one tries not to get worse, go worse. But at the, at, we're we are different, but there is something that we can identify as being us. There's aspects, that direct us, aspects of ourselves that we've had since childhood. These are called predispositions. We have habits, emotional, mental. We have these predispositions, these connections with certain people, certain things. An example given, someone who lies often will be reborn with a predisposition of lying. If someone who meditates a lot, or plays an instrument a lot, or someone who gets angry a lot, they will be reborn with these predispositions. When a moment ends, there those habits, those deep habits, those predispositions, those stay, and that's what we take from one life to the next. So I get to a fundamental point here. Given that we're going to die, and I don't think that anyone can contest this fact, And so something that I've said many times and I repeat here, there's nothing wrong with dying. There's nothing wrong with death. Death is the problem is not dying. It's not a defeat. And it's not a problem because there's no solution. If there's a if it's a problem, then there must be a possible solution. And in death, I don't think that there's a solution. There are certain Buddhist texts that talk about, people who lived for long, long, long periods. Some masters have said that they lived for 900 years, but then they died. There's one in the Tibetan text. In the Tibetan text, it says 900 years, but in the Indian text it says 90. I think maybe the translator added a zero and it just stayed like this. But beyond this detail, and it doesn't matter how long someone lives, sooner or later they die. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with death. Unfortunately, we live in a context where we see death as a defeat. No, that it went badly and he died. No. The natural process, that was a natural process. It goes badly when one lives badly. That's the problem. So, when someone dies, it shouldn't be, how old was he, but should be, well, how did he live? Today people ask me, my grandfather is sick, and I say he's 98, and they say, oh, 98, but what's important is how he lived, and he really did live well. He always treated everyone well. He lived very correctly. He was very good. This is what's important, independently of how many years one lives. So it's important how we live. But when we think about ourselves, imagine falling asleep and waking up with total amnesia. What counts are our habits and our predispositions, because those are the ones we take with us. So point number one, we're going to die. Excuse me if I'm so direct. I don't want to sadden anyone. But point number two, we don't know when that's going to happen. Number three, we need to prepare ourselves. We can't begin to prepare ourselves for death when we have the diagnosis, this the priority mail from the Lord of Death. There was a practitioner who was the master of a friend, and one day we went to find him in India. He lived in a kind of mountain hut in outside of Dharamsala in India, and he had a life of retreat and meditation. And at a certain point, his disciple, and together with a friend, they saw that he wasn't well. He wasn't healthy. He coughed a lot. He was weak, and they convinced him to go to the hospital to take exams, to do exams. And so they went from there down the mountain. They took the bus to Delhi. You can imagine, from a cavern in the mountain to the busy city. He went to a hospital. He did all the tests, and the doctor didn't tell him what he had. Every time he saw him, the doctor would just turn away from him, and he was tired. At a certain point, he saw the doctor pass in the hallway. He jumped on him, and he hugged his legs, and he said, "Tell me what I have." And the doctor didn't know what really to say, and he said, "I'm sorry, but you have cancer." And he said, "Well, what does that mean?" And he said, "It means that you're going to die, and I can't do anything for you. You're going to die." And he got up, And he started laughing and laughing. I mean, and for good time. And then with peace, he looked at the doctor and he said, if having cancer, if having cancer means I'm going to die, then that means that I've had cancer since I was a baby, because since a baby I knew that I had to die. There's no news here. And if you can't, and if you can't do anything for the fact that I don't feel well, then goodbye. So then he went back to the mountains. He did his purification practice of prostrations for 3 months, night and day. And after the 3 months of this purification practice, he was able to go back to his retreat for years, and he never went back to the doctor. The point is that we're all going to die, and we don't know when. But we need to prepare ourselves. We can't live as if death didn't exist, because when our body is weak because of sickness or old age, it's too late to just start preparing, because if we believe that death is the end of everything and there's nothing beyond, okay, do something, don't do something, prepare yourself, to see that moment of death, do something. It's not just, when we say prepare yourself, it's not just that moment or saying goodbye to people. No, it's about taking care of what continues. This is the main point about preparing ourselves for death, because at this death, at death there's a part of ourselves that continues. We need to take care of that part, because our gross body is going to lose strength and won't be able to sustain itself. And there are 5 main points that can show us how to prepare ourselves. Instead we talk about, preparing ourselves for death, make a will. Because, that brings a little bit of a bad luck to prepare a will. But no. Lama Gangchen said, when one is sick, it's like someone coming close to you, and someone is threatening you. And the more you retreat from that, the harder the threat of being slapped is. And instead, if somebody's threatening you, someone is threatening to hit you, and you say, okay, you want to hit me, go ahead. Most probably the person threatening you will move away. So it's said that when death is faced head on, often it retreats. But beyond that, what happens is, it's fundamental for us to prepare ourselves. And most of us, we don't know where to even begin. So reflecting on this, I saw teachings in Buddhist and in the Gelugpa tradition. There are 5 points to help us prepare ourselves for death. It's like, jokingly, it's like the insurance for a good rebirth. Maybe people say, well, I'm not sure that there is reincarnation, but if you could have if you could have insurance to make sure that you would have a good rebirth, wouldn't you want to have it? Sure. The good thing is that the price of this insurance is living this life well, doing things that are beneficial to us now. It's like saying, what's the price? What's the price of ensuring a healthy old age? Would be living a healthy life now. So let's look at these 5 points. They're called the five powers in front of death. And we need to train these. We can't wait one day, who knows when, to begin them.
Primo punto, viene chiamato Carpe Sapiens Top. che letteralmente si potrebbe tradurre
The
come il
first
potere
point is
del seme della
the
bianca virtù.
the seed of white
Che
virtues.
io lo traduco di storia come il potere
And
della virtù.
I translate it as the seed of virtue.
Che mettendolo in parole
And
semplici,
in
il
simple
potere della
words,
virtù
the power of
vuol
virtue
dire
means
relazionarsi con le
to
cose
relate
materiali
to
in un
material
modo sano,
things in a healthy way.
capire non solo
Understand, not
concettualmente
just
che le cose
conceptually,
materiali,
but that
quindi oggetti,
objects, material things,
denaro,
money,
anche persone,
even
in certo modo, è
people
quello che
in
c'è
a
di
certain
materiale che
way,
è fuori di noi,
that
che se nessuno
which
può
is,
possedere,
you know,
insomma,
matter,
però in qualche modo
beyond us,
crediamo di poterlo
you know.
fare. Ok? Nulla di cui noi possiamo possedere
Nothing that
fuori di
we
noi
can possess,
deve essere un
not that we
fine
can
in se
actually
stesso, ma
possess
sì un
people, but we
mezzo.
think we can. It should not be
Lasciamo
an
stare le
end in
persone per un
itself. I mean,
attimo.
let's just put people
Immaginiamo che
outside for a
apriamo
moment.
l'armadio di casa,
Let's imagine that we open up
guardiamo gli oggetti che abbiamo
the closets at
e
home. We
chiediamo
look
agli
at the
oggetti:
objects and we ask the objects,
sei tu che sei a mio
are
servizio o sono io che sono a tuo
are you
servizio?
serving me or am I serving you?
Che funzione hai per me?
What function do you have for
E quando
me?
qualcosa
And
ha
when
l'unica funzione
something,
di essere posseduto e
you know,
basta,
and something's only
o mi
function
dà
is
la
to be
funzione di darmi una
possessed, you know,
sicurezza
or
perché un
maybe it
domani
gives
so
me
che posso
some
vivere,
kind
quindi mi
of
porta un po' l'animo in pace perché non so,
security
sono
for the
paranoico
future,
o
or
voglio
maybe
prepararmi,
I'm
quindi so che c'è
paranoid
dietro un'eventualità di
and I
qualunque
want
cosa, c'ho
to
qualcosa, è come per dire mi costruisco il
I want to
bunker sotto
prepare
casa,
myself for
vado, guardo
for
il bunker
the
e dico ma tu a che cosa mi serve?
for,
Oggi
for the
niente, mi serve per
for the
aiutarmi ad avere
future,
un po'
you
di
know.
pace per
Maybe
quella
I look
paura
at
che
it,
ho
you
che
know, I'm not
qualcosa
using
cada.
any of this
Ok?
now, but maybe it
Però
keeps
dobbiamo
me
vedere
at
che ha
peace
una
a little bit
funzione.
looking in the
Però
future. But we need to
spesso
see
noi
that
ci
it has a
relazioniamo con
function.
tante cose materiali dove la
And maybe that's
funzione di
just to
quelle
make
cose
you,
materiali è
more
semplicemente essere posseduti.
relaxed. But many, we'll see that many
Punto.
things that we
È un po'
have,
per
their only
esempio
function
fare
is to be
collezionismo di
possessed.
certe cose,
You know,
no?
like
Io
being
mi
like
ricordo quando
a
abbiamo
collectioner.
iniziato
I remember,
l'epoca della musica digitale,
you know,
dove si
when
poteva scaricare la
digital
musica
music
sui hard
started,
disk
where
prima dello streaming.
you could
Mi
download things
ricordo
before
tanta gente che
streaming.
aveva
I
hard
remember
disk
people had
pieni di musica che se
t-
si mettesse a suonare dalla
had
prima
whole
all'ultima
hard
senza mai
discs
ripetere una canzone,
full of
avrebbe già la
digital
terza
music. You know,
reincarnazione.
I mean, just the time it would take to listen from beginning to end, it would take
Dici,
3
perché c'è tutta quella
reincarnations. You say,
musica
why
lì?
do you have all that music?
Per averla,
Just to have it.
ok? Ci sono tante
There's
cose che uno
there are
possiede
things
per in
that
qualche
people
modo il
possess
piacere di possederle
for
e
the
però finisce a
pleasure
dover servire quelle
of
cose lì,
of
ossia una
of
parte
having it,
dell'energia
but
della propria vita viene
a
consumata dal
part of one's
prendere cura di quelle
energy
cose,
is
che a
used
loro
up
volta però
in
non servono a niente a noi.
taking care of these things that don't actually
Quando noi ci troviamo dinanzi a
serve
queste
us.
cose, le
And
possibilità sono poche.
when we find ourselves in
O
front of
regaliamo,
objects like this,
o vendiamo,
we can
o
sell it,
buttiamo,
we can throw it
o troviamo
away,
l'uso.
or we find a use for it.
Ok?
We give it away, we sell it, we throw
Queste
it
sono le
away,
possibilità.
or
Ed è un
or we
esercizio
find a
non
use for it.
facilissimo.
And these are the
Andare a casa,
possibilities. And
aprire
it's not
un
that
armadio che non
easy,
si apre di
you know,
solito, guardare
to
qualcosa,
open up a
guardare un po' e
closet that you
dice,
don't
mi
normally
serve o non mi
closet
serve?
and look at all your things and say, do I need this or
Non
not?
so.
Hmm,
Ok, butto
okay,
via,
no,
preparare, trovare.
okay, don't
Io
need
ho
it,
fatto
gone.
questo perché quando
I
io
did this
mi sono
because
spostato
when I
di casa,
moved house,
ho avuto la fortuna
I
di non
had
dover fare il trasloco in una volta sola.
I
Quindi
had
mi
the
sono
great, I
spostato
was
solo le cose che
lucky
mi servivano in quel
because I
momento.
didn't need to
E
move
mi sono
everything at
accorto di tante di
once,
quelle cose
and I
che
was able
è
just to move the
passato 2
things I
anni e non li avevo
needed,
ancora presi.
and I realized, you know, there were some things
Quindi vuol
that
dire che
after 2 years I still didn't
mi
need
serve.
those things,
Quindi in
and
realtà potrei prendere
so
quella
I
valigia
realized that I
piena
didn't need
senza
those
guardare quello che
things,
c'è
you know.
dentro e
So
regalarlo
basically, I
per
could take a
capire che cosa
closet
serve a chi
full
deve
of
aprire.
things and just
Però in
gift it
generale è
all.
questo, relazionarsi in un
So
modo
it's
sano con le
about
cose
relating
materiali.
to
E
to
con questo non
material
vuol dire non
things in
c'è
a
niente di
healthy
male nel
way.
possedere
And,
tante
you know,
cose.
and there's nothing wrong
Dipende
with
come le
possessing a
utilizzi,
lot
qual è
of
la
things
funzione
as
che ha
long
per
as
me.
they
E non è che
have
sia
a
un tabù
function.
avere tante
And it's not
risorse.
a taboo to have a
Il
lot.
tabù è
The
vivere per
taboo
loro,
is living
diventare
for these
schiavo
things,
del
being a
denaro e
slave
non il
of
contrario.
money and not the opposite.
Ok?
For example, if someone, who wants to help a lot of people, the more material resources I have, the more I can do for them. If I want to dedicate a lot of time to meditate and be in nature, and I have these resources that allow me to do that, then that's good. They have a function. But if the goal of my life is just to accumulate more and more, I become a slave. So if we see that something doesn't have a function, we give it to someone, we throw it away, we sell it, or we find a function for it. The second aspect of this is that when material things, when we have material things, and the material things that we possess, somehow they're the fruit of our own energy. It's, we work, and if we work and we get resources and we purchase these things, so these material things have a connection to our person, and they have this, two aspects, because on the one hand, with the day we die, we can't take them with us, even though once someone asked me if there was a method to be able to take things to the next life. There was someone who was extremely rich, and one day he asked me, he said, "Lama, but you don't you believe in reincarnation, how does it work?" I explained, and he said, "Okay, that's really interesting. But if I make a trust, and I put, I don't know, maybe like $300 million, like this, and then I say that it should go to my reincarnation, and I'll leave a percentage to the person who finds my reincarnation." I think it would be a great business, this transfer of resources from one life to the next, just all goes to your next life. But what I said, I wouldn't trust anybody, first of all, because it would be a percentage plus all the expenses, it doesn't work like that. So what we have, materially, the day we die, goodbye, we can't bring anything with us. But those material things that we leave, they're going to continue to interact with the world, won't they? So if I, for example, I construct a hospital, or I participate in the building of a hospital, and the day I die, but that hospital continues to do good and help people, I'm a part of that, so I'll continue to receive benefit of that. If I write a poem or a book, if in 100 years' time people receive benefit from that, I too even then will be receiving something from that. So we should be wise investors, thinking about the interdependence that's created. If we're able to generate something that will create a positive interdependence, possibly in the mid and long term, so this we say it's better to donate to the hospital instead of giving, buying medicine, because by giving to the hospital, you're putting drops into the whole hospital that continues. So this is the first of the five. That's the easiest. The second power is called the power of aspiration. It's already harder. It's the non-attachment to the body and non-attachment to the image and to the name. Understanding that this body is passing. This body is not our being. Once Lama Gangchen describes the body like a hotel room. You check in, you have a little a little trip, then you check out. But this body is of this moment and will not always be there. Even in this lifetime, it changes continuously. It's not the same as before. So gradually, we need to generate an identity that transcends this body and gradually identify ourselves in that which transcends this body. And to do this, there's an exercise that you can try to do that I invented. If it works well, I think it does. This is the following. We write a letter. Possibly not, not on the phone and not from your computer, just paper and pen. You write a letter of introduction of yourself, imagining that anyone who reads that letter would be able to recognize us in a crowd of thousands. So we write this letter, but there's some rules. We can't write our name. Second, we can't talk about our body. We can't, or I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm tall, I'm short. We can't talk about our profession. Oh, I'm a lama, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a banker. Whatever it is. We can't talk about the things that we've done. I'm the one who has realized this, who has done this. We can't talk about our family members. I'm the mother of this, or the wife or the husband of this. People ask, what am I supposed to say? We need to describe ourselves from inside. The inside, without worrying without worrying about contradictions. But we need to begin we need to start observing ourselves inside. Just to give an example, I'm a person who, when I'm in front of I like things when they're just the same, and if I in front of a challenge, it gives me when I'm in front of a challenge, I'm full of joy, or maybe when I find myself challenged, I run away because I prefer things to always stay the same, or I get very angry easily, or I see someone and I try to help. We need to describe ourselves from inside out and not how people from the outside see us. It's not so easy. You need some experience, little by little. This letter should be written. And once if you want to, you can read it at the end or not. But there's another fundamental rule. No one, absolutely no one can read this letter other than yourselves. So we write the date, we close it up, and we put it somewhere where no one will read it. After about 6 months, maybe okay a little bit before, but let's say about after 6 months, you write another letter. After you finish that second letter, you go back to the first and you read it, and then you can then put that away, and then gradually we start observing ourselves from the inside, and we see that our identity is not just based on our body, on our name, on how other people see us. When we're able to see that, a part of that, identity, non-conceptual, continues. It's a little strange to say, but it's kind of like it's an inner experience. So we shouldn't be seeing ourselves, comparing ourselves to others. I mean, our reference point is ourselves. It's not impossible. It's not so easy. I mean, with a little bit of of effort, it can do it. So the third power is called
il potere
the
dell'opposizione.
power of opposition. Sinjin Kitop. The power of opposition is recognizing what our behaviors are, emotional behaviors, mental behaviors that harm us, and we oppose them. So what are our attitudes, from laziness to anger or feelings of inadequacy? I mean, what these feelings that harm us, and say, I don't want to be born a difficult child. I don't want to be born a boring, angry, lazy child. I want to be born a child with good predispositions for being kind, and he's going, for myself, I'm far from getting to my final destination, but I said to myself at a certain point, I don't want to be reborn lazy. Stop. I see what I am today. I don't want to repeat this. I don't want to repeat this because I have a predisposition for laziness that is not indifferent. So I say it also for myself, to remind myself and put effort into this opposition, because I don't want to be reborn lazy. I need to do something now. So this power of opposition is recognizing our deep habits that are harmful to us, and not allow ourselves to be taken by these. We need to stop nourishing them without blocking them. We need to be kind with ourselves, but we need to change a habit. We need to stop nourishing it and we need to find an opposite habit. So, for example, I have this habit of criticizing. I recognize that I want to criticize. I know that it's not good to criticize. So I try not to materialize that emotion verbally, physically, or even mentally. I don't even get into any kind of dialogue like, oh, I know I shouldn't criticize, but look at that. I mean, by doing that, we're nourishing that habit. Instead, or it could be envy or anger or whatever it is. So don't feed our bad habits. On a certain point of view, the worst thing we can do at the time of our death is to die with a feeling of anger, for example, because when that gross mind loses force and the subtle mind appears, and then also dissolves, and the very subtle mind appears. So that very subtle mind is strongly influenced by the mind that we had at the time of death. So resentment, so it's not totally determining, but the influence of anger, resentment, or jealousy, at the time of death is very negative. So we need to prepare. We need to prepare ourselves. We don't have any time to lose. If we don't want to be reborn jealous, envious, angry, resentful, it's better to do something now. Otherwise, that predisposition, when we look at small children, for example, I don't know if you've ever observed small children, I mean, they have also emotional predispositions. There's some that seem so kind. Others, as soon as, others you just, Once I remember this one child, a small girl, you know, um, she was very, very small, but she she had this ability. It was like almost, it seemed innate that she was able to see someone, and it was almost like a pleasure of hers to just to hit the other's weaknesses. So I love this child, but she had this habit, you know. But it's so they have the predispositions, but there's also, you know, all of the external context but I ask myself, what predisposition do I want to be born with? But not just this. I mean, what kind of old person do I want to be? I'm 40. I'm going to be 41 now in July. If I were to live as old as my grandfather, who's 98, I think, you know, what kind of old person do I want to be? Do I want to be peaceful and balanced, or do I want to be angry, nervous, and always complaining, you know? Because, you know, what I've said before, you know, who do I want to live with? You know, we look at ourselves look at ourselves in the eyes. Do I want to live all my life with you? You know, there's some parts of us we say, oh, better not. So let's do something. And what we need to do is to stop nourishing those bad habits, those aspects of ourselves that are harmful: criticism, jealousy, envy, fear, anxiety, sadness. And there's a whole path to do. We're not going to get into that, but it starts with awareness, seeing that emotion, that habit, and not nourishing it, and just letting it pass. Because when that big wave comes and we're able to sit with that with that feeling, that aversion or whatever it is, without feeding it, you know, then it will end with less strength than it arrived, regardless of the habit. If every time we have the desire to repeat something and we don't allow it to manifest, it just that habit becomes weaker and weaker. And the other antidote is to create new healthy habits and the opposite habits. That's already the fifth power. Instead, the fourth power, so we have the power of virtue, relating healthy to things, or the non-attachment to our to ourselves, identifying, developing an identity that transcends this life, or oppose aspects of ourselves that are harmful. And the fourth is called the power of prayer, which in reality, the right word is in Munlam. The translation, a more correct translation would be instead like a prayer. You know, if I am praying to you, then I'm asking you for something. To prayer, for what it's about requesting something. In this context, has nothing to do with asking for something. Tibetan is translated as prayer, is mun lam. Munpa means a virtuous desire. It's the direction of something, and lam is path. So, for example, when we say the verse, may the peaceful mind that has not yet arisen arise and grow, and that one which has already arisen continue to grow and not degenerate. We're not asking for anything. We're using words to direct our mind virtuously, and most of the verses that are translated as prayers, they're the words of, they're aspirational prayers. So, so this power of the aspirational path is about desiring something that transcends this life. What do I want for myself beyond this life? It's not easy, huh? Imagining myself, what do I want beyond my death? I'm not talking about I want my tomb like this. I want people to remember me. No. Once a friend in the monastery, he was really sick, and he was very afraid of dying. He went to I was translating. He went to this master and he said, I want to leave this with this person. I want to, do this, do that, and the other. I want to leave this with these people. And it was Gen Lakpala. He looked at him and he said, Stop being attached to things even after your death. Leave everything to the monastery, and the monastery will use it, in the most beneficial way. But here we're talking about imagining ourselves, beyond our death and saying, what do I want? May I always be in a context where I'm always protected and guided, where I be loved and love others, at peace with myself and peace with others. For example, may my inner growth continue. May minute after minute, life after life, may I keep growing as a person. Just some examples. But it's where we direct ourselves beyond. We could even say, may I be reborn in this context or that context. It's said that at the time of death, the direction that we give, it pushes us somehow. There's a nice story of a monk who was about to die. He was dying, basically, and he had prepared in many ways, but he had an enormous attachment to Tibetan tea. And he was on his bed about to die, and there was this tea in front of him, and his mind was just on my tea, my tea, my tea. He was really attached to this tea, and his master, who was there, and he realized that, he was dying. There was no time to say, think of something else. He was fixated on this tea, and he said to him, in Tushita, which is a so-called Pure Land, a place where the most of the beings who live there are spiritually evolved beings, wisdom and love. So Tushita is this Pure Land where Buddha Maitreya lives. And he starts saying, at Tushita there's a marvelous tea. The tea of Tushita, the butter is much fatter than here. And he starts talking about talking about the qualities of this Tibetan tea, which would make most of us just run away. But he died thinking about Tushita, and it said that he was reborn there because that moment of his death he was directed himself there, and this master had this ability to know how to direct his mind. The point is about desiring something that transcends this life. So we get to that moment of death and have a clear idea of what we want after. It's not so easy, but it is possible. And this fifth power is called the power of familiarization. The power of familiarization is about familiarizing ourselves right away the virtues that we want to develop, increase, and take with us: joy, gratitude, love. Create these predispositions that we want to have even after. Okay? Is it easy to train in the 5 powers? No. It's not, but is it impossible? Is it reachable? I don't mean to like totally conclude it, but it's something that we can practice, isn't it? So let's do it. Because we're going to die. So it's better to prepare ourselves first. And as we prepare ourselves for our death, you know, we prepare ourselves well for death when we live well. Because let's just set death aside. Let's imagine that we didn't need to die. I mean, to live well, it's important to relate health in a healthy way with material things, or have an identity that's based on our inner self and not on what other people think of us, you know. Then with the first wrinkle, we would have crisis, you know. Oh, I wasn't like this, you know. We're all impermanent. I realized this when, you know, when I realized this, I looked at a picture that I had shot from, I had a little drone at home, and I took a picture, and I saw myself from above. I said, "Oh wow, look at that!" You know, very rarely do I look at myself in the mirror, and from the picture, I said, "Oh, look at that! I'm alive." It's a sign that I'm alive, because the only alternative to not getting old is dying young. You know, there's no alternative. I mean, there are those who do try, you know, and that's just a trap. So naturally, we transform, we change. So having an identity that transcends this present moment, how others see us, who I live with, who I'm married to, or how I'm doing at work, how I am physically, you know, it's just developing an identity that transcends all of this. And I'm not saying that all these things are not important or have their importance, because in life we're born alone. We live alone, and we die alone, in the sense that no one can live our life for us. But in this life, we interact with many, many people, and this is marvelous. Relating to others is very important. I'm not taking anything away with relating to others. It's very important, but we need to have our own balance that allows us to interact with others, and how, has happened that you thought you would live your whole life next to this person, and for different reasons, that's no longer true. Or, at a certain point, just for one reason, or another, something changes here, something changes there. So for this life, having an identity that goes beyond the body, the things that we possess, that transcends our social position, all the rest, is that good for us or not? It's good for us. It's not harmful. For example, when someone at a certain point goes retires, there are some people who are very happy, and others who are just have a crisis, because I am, and then the profession. When I'm no longer a doctor, or the lawyer, or whatever it is, and then who am I? Well, I'm the pensioner. Maybe I'm happy to be retired. No, I'm something that goes beyond that. I'm a person that's in constant evolution, that did this job, and at a certain point this job ends, and I'm this person who lives in this place, who interacts with these people, but I'm not a doctor, a professor. I'm someone who does that job, and sooner or later it changes. So having an identity that's deeper is only beneficial for us. Having the maturity of looking at ourselves in the eyes, and seeing that there are aspects of ourselves that are harmful, and being able to be kind to ourselves without judgment, and being able to direct ourselves to do differently is beneficial. Having virtuous desires that go beyond this moment, a direction in front of us is really important. Familiarizing ourselves with the virtuous aspects of ourselves. These are the five powers, and if we prepare ourselves well for these five powers, it's this kind of insurance for a better rebirth. I mean, what will ensure a better rebirth? These five powers. And in this context, we see the importance of meditation, like self-healing, where we recognize the aspects that we want to change. We recognize the qualities we want to develop. So the part of vision, the view, we need to apply this knowledge in our daily life, which is the part of conduct. So we have view and conduct, and we need to also familiarize ourselves through meditation. We familiarize ourselves inside through meditation. It's where we induce ourselves into certain states of consciousness, and we familiarize ourselves with them. So this is what I wanted to explain today. Now we're going to do the part of self-healing that Lama Gangchen taught us. For those of you who don't know it or have never done it, don't worry. Something that's important. There's no hurry to know everything. There's a hurry to walk in the right direction. And here we're together, and something beautiful about the center, and is that this is a place where everyone can be himself, with totally different aspects, without being afraid of being ourselves. Everyone, naturally, I know what I don't know, and then I'll learn. So this is a meditation that has recitation, breathing, visualization, the gestures called mudras. Those of you who want to just follow, you can follow, or if you prefer to stay silently and without doing the mudras. Let's try to bring our attention to this present moment. We observe our breath and bring our attention to this present moment, and then we'll have times where we'll be able to explain the practice of self-healing. One thing is it's a valid tool. It's a tool that if we understand it well, then it really works. But even if we don't know understand it all, it still works, and everyone needs to have their own experience. It can seem a little bit strange and mystical, but there's nothing about the practice that cannot be explained and understood, and it's actually a lot more. It's a lot more logical and simple than other practices. It's like saying, like believing in the ability to reach enlightenment, or so nirvana. So maybe someone would say, "Well, this is a utopia." How do you know that you really can? Instead, what do we believe? We believe that it's possible to be happy just by buying things. I mean, if we analyze with just the minimum of sincerity, we see that we have views that are much more that are based on false utopias. But let me close parentheses here. I'm not going to go into this point. But now, let's sit down in a comfortable position with our back straight but not tense.
le spalle rilassate,
Our shoulders are relaxed.
la testa leggermente avanti,
Our head is slightly bent forward
con la bocca rilassata,
with our mouth relaxed.
gli occhi
Our eyes
leggermente
are
chiusi,
slightly closed,
guardando verso il basso.
looking downwards.
Porgiamo la nostra
Let's
attenzione
bring our
sul
attention
nostro proprio
to
respiro,
our own breath,
in particolare sulla sensazione
that
alle
feeling
narici
in our
dell'aria che
nostrils,
entra
on the air that
e
comes in
dell'aria che esce.
and the air that goes out.
Ci permettiamo
We
di essere
allow
presenti
ourselves to
nel
be
momento
present
presente.
in this present moment.
Qualunque altro pensiero sorga,
Any
abbiamo
other
tempo dopo per
thought that
pensarci.
comes out, we don't
Non ci
give it
aggrappiamo a questo
space.
pensiero e non lo seguiamo.
We don't follow it.
Lasciamo che
We don't
fluisca
block it. We just
e
let it
riportiamo con
come and
gentilezza la
go.
nostra
And we
attenzione sul
bring
nostro proprio
our
respiro.
mind with gently back onto our breath.
Inspira,
We inhale.
espira.
And exhale.
Inspira.
Inhale. And exhale.
Visualizziamo il nostro corpo
We visualize our body
come un corpo di luce,
as a body of light.
leggero,
Light
al centro del nostro
at
corpo,
the
dove c'è la spina
center of our
dorsale,
body, where
c'è
there's
il
our
cosiddetto
spinal
canale
cord.
centrale,
There's the so-called central channel,
affiancato dal canale destro e
and at
sinistro.
each side there's the right and left channel.
Abbiamo 5
We have
principali punti di
5
energia,
main
detti
points of
5
energy,
chakra,
the so-called
dal
chakras,
capo
from our
alla
crown
gola,
and our
al
throat
cuore,
at our heart,
3 dita sotto l'ombelico
three
e alla base
three
della spina
fingers under
dorsale,
our
alla
navel,
base del canale
and at the
centrale,
base of
cosiddetto chakra segreto.
our spinal cord, the so-called secret chakra.
Nello spazio davanti a
In the
noi
space in front of us,
visualizziamo
we
Guru Buddha.
visualize Guru Buddha.
Guru Buddha
Guru Buddha
è la
is the
personificazione di tutti gli esseri
personification
sacri,
of all holy beings,
dell'amore, della
of
saggezza
love,
sviluppati al loro
wisdom,
massimo
developed to
potenziale,
its
si
highest
manifesta a
potential,
noi
that
nell'aspetto
manifests to
del
us
nostro Guru
as our
o
Guru
del Buddha.
or Buddha.
Guru Buddha ci
Guru
sorride,
Buddha smiles
i
at
suoi
us,
5
and his
chakra sono
5
perfettamente
chakras are
equilibrati,
completely balanced, and
rappresentando
they
per noi
represent
quello
for
che noi
us
stessi vogliamo raggiungere.
what we want to reach.
Guru Buddha è la
Guru Buddha
personificazione dell'amore,
is the
della saggezza,
personification
della
of
stabilità,
love
della
and
gioia.
stability, joy and wisdom.
Chiediamo le
And we
benedizioni a Guru
ask
Buddha
his
per
we ask
poter
the
anche noi stessi
blessings of Guru
sviluppare le
Buddha
nostre
so that
qualità.
we too can develop our qualities.
Nel mondo intorno a noi
And around us,
osserviamo che
we
ci sono
observe
tanti altri
there
esseri,
are so many other beings,
i nostri genitori,
our
mogli,
parents,
zii,
our
figli,
our
familiari,
aunts, our uncles, our
primogenitori,
children,
marito, moglie,
our
amici,
husband, our wife, our
compagni,
friends,
persone che
our colleagues,
conosciamo,
people
che
we
non
know,
conosciamo,
people we
sono
don't
tantissimi
know,
esseri intorno
so
a noi.
many beings around us. And by seeing them, we deeply, deeply desire to do something to help them. And for this reason, we ask Guru Buddha to bless us. May through his blessings, may help us develop our qualities so that we can develop wisdom and love to be able to help every being around us get out of his or her own suffering. In the 5 chakras of Guru Buddha, light rays and nectar of white, red, blue, yellow, and green color come out and absorb into our respective chakras, purifying us and revitalizing our qualities and qualities of body, speech, and mind.
Locho sampo pa gyu tra shi pa tu che tempe trin le yar ngoda pel gedro lor zampe tse par chen pal den la me shabla sol vade Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Utavardanye Shri Bhadra Varasamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Buddha 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 Siddhi Hum.
Purification of the 5 elements in the 5 chakras. We purify space at our crown chakra, the wind at our secret chakra. The wind blows, enters into our central channel and increases the fire at our navel, and it warms up the water that evaporates, goes towards our throat chakra, and then comes down like rain through our entire body.
Ram lam bam shude shude svoha eho shude shude svoha yam ho shude shude svoha Ramo Shuddha Shuddha Svoham Lam Ho Shuddha Shuddha Svoha Bam Ho Shuddha Shuddha Svoha Eyam Ram Lam Bam Shuddha Shuddha Svoha Om Swabhava Shuddha Rva Dharma Swabhava Shuddha
All phenomena are of the nature, are pure nature, as they are empty of independent intrinsic existence, because they're interdependent, and I am too. The world around us gradually dissolves into light. The mountains, the oceans, the sky, the stars, everything around us gradually dissolves into light. And the place where we are dissolves into light, our body, from above and below, below to above, dissolves into light. There's nothing other than an infinite bright emptiness, where there's no me or you or this or that or here or there. There's only an infinite luminous emptiness, empty of intrinsic existence, since it's interdependent. It's inseparable from a great joy, great bliss. I am, each one of us is the union, non-dual union of bliss and emptiness, this state of profound joy that we experience, the emptiness. We inhale and we exhale. From the union of bliss and emptiness, the universe arises. We arise on a lotus flower and a cushion, a moon and a sun cushion, where our legs are crossed, our back is straight, our central channel is strong and clear, and the two side channels are weaker, but our 5 chakras are completely balanced. In each one of our chakras, a lotus flower arises, representing our perfectly balanced energy points, allowing the energy to flow perfectly. And in the space in front of us, there's the Guru Buddha is there smiling at us. At our secret chakra, there's a green lotus flower, yellow at our navel, blue at our heart, red at our throat, and white at our crown.
Pam le pe ma chan ku, pam le pe ma serpo, pam le pe ma ngompo, pam le pe ma marpo, pam le pe ma carpo.
In the lotus flowers, the seed syllables of the 5 supreme healers arise, the essence of our qualities, this potential to become Buddhas ourselves. At the crown chakra, there's a white Om with a white dot of light that vibrates with the sound of Om, a red Ah at our throat, a blue Hum at our heart, a yellow Tram at our navel, and a green Ri at our secret chakra. The seed syllables transform into the syllables of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and then transform into the 5 Dhyani Buddhas themselves, representing our own qualities developed to the highest potential. At the crown is white Vairochana, at our throat Amitabha, at our heart Akshobhya, at our navel yellow Ratnasambhava, and our secret chakra a green Amoghasiddhi.
Tram le norbu serpo tram Hon le dorje ngompo hon A le pe mamarpo a Om le korlo karpo Om korlo nang tse dorje ape mache dorje hun dorje mi kyo dorje cham nor burin chung dorje rinatso dorje ton yun dorje Lama Tönyon Dorje Kin.
At our secret chakra, with the blessing of Supreme Healer Guru Buddha Amoghasiddhi, green in color, and the mudra of non-fear, we purify all the negativities of our secret chakra in the form of green garudas, and we purify our envy, our fear, our jealousy, uncertainties, and all the sicknesses that are related to the secret chakra. They are completely purified. We receive all the blessings of Supreme Healer Guru Amoghasiddhi in the form of green light and nectar that fills up our body, it blesses us, it revitalizes our qualities, and we develop the ability to rejoice, the joy for the happiness of others, and this power of realization, the certainty in every action.
Om Amoghasiddhi Hum Om Amoghasiddhi Hum Om Amoghasiddhi Om Amoghasiddhi Hum Om Amoghasiddhi Hum Lama Rinpoche Dorje Kyen.
At our navel chakra, with the blessings of Supreme Healer Guru Buddha Ratnasambhava, yellow in color, with the mudra of supreme generosity, we purify all the negativities that are related to our navel chakra in the form of dark yellow horses, black smoke and dirt. Especially, we eliminate completely any form of arrogance, of miserliness, and all the sicknesses that are related to the navel chakra. They are completely eliminated. We receive all the blessing of Supreme Healer Buddha Ratnasambhava in the form of light rays and nectar, yellow in color, that fill up our body, they bless us, and we develop the We develop humility, humbleness, generosity, generosity to give materially, to give love, to give protection, and to give the Dharma, the spiritual path. We develop humbleness. This ability, the part of our identity that doesn't need to compare to anyone else. And we develop the wisdom of equanimity and
Maratna Sambhavaho Om Maratna Sambhavaho Om Maratna Sambhavaho Om Aratna Sambhavaho Om Aratna Sambhavaho. Lama Michel Rinpoche.
at our heart chakra with the blessings of Supreme Healer Guru Buddha Kshovya, blue in color with the mudra of stability. We purify all negativities that related to the heart chakra in the form of dark blue snakes and dark smoke and dirt. Especially we eliminate completely any form of anger, hate, resentment, nervousness, anxiety, sadness, impatience, aggressiveness, inner instability, and all sicknesses that are related to the heart chakra, they're completely purified. We develop, we receive all the blessings of Guru Buddha Akshobhya in the form of blue light rays and nectars that fill up our body, revitalize our qualities of love, of compassion, patience, stability, inner stability, spontaneous joy, the pure aggregate of consciousness and the wisdom of Dharmadhatu.
Om Akshobhya Om Akshobhya Om Akshobhya Om Akshobhya Om Akshobhya. Lama Chodorjikin.
At our throat chakra with the blessings of Supreme Healer Buddha Amitabha, color red in color, with the mudra of concentration, we purify all negativities related to our throat chakra in the form of red hands, black dark smoke and dirt. Especially we eliminate completely our unlimited attachment, this unlimited desire, dissatisfaction, this lack of concentration, distractions, violent speech, and all sicknesses that are related to the throat chakra. They're completely eliminated. We receive all the blessings of the Supreme Healer Buddha Amitabha in the form of light and nectar red in color that fill up our body, bless us, revitalizing our qualities. We develop satisfaction, concentration, sacred speech, and the pure aggregate of discernment and the wisdom of discernment.
Om Amitabha Om Lama Nangze Dorje Kin.
At our crown chakra, with the blessing of Supreme Healer Buddha Vairochana, white in color, with the mudra of wisdom, we purify all negativities of the crown chakra in the form of black pigs, dark smoke, and dirt. Especially, we eliminate completely our ignorance, the erroneous view of ourself, the erroneous view of every phenomenon. And every sickness related to our crown chakra is completely eliminated. We receive all the blessings of Supreme Healer Buddha Vairochana in the form of white light rays and nectar that come into our crown, fill up our body, bless us, revitalizing our qualities, and we develop wisdom, the correct view of reality, the correct view of ourselves, the correct view of every phenomenon, and a deep, profound harmony with ourselves and every other thing. We develop infinite inner space, the pure aggregate of form, and the all-accomplishing wisdom, a clear perception of every phenomenon that surrounds us.
Om Aveirochana Hum. Om Aveirochana Hum. Om Aveirochana Hum. Om Aveirochana Hum. Om Aveirochana Hum.
In an instant, we arise as a pure being, Buddha, the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, with the mudra, the hugging mudra, representing that it's the union of method and wisdom, of bliss and emptiness. There are no more enemies. The secret, the wisdom initiation, secret of wisdom initiation. We visualize a white energy that goes from our crown down to our secret chakra, and a red energy from our secret energy to our crown that then unite. Our crown to our throat, our secret chakra to our navel, and meeting at our heart, and bringing a deep sense of bliss that goes through our entire body. And with this state of mind, we realize, not conceptually, but that everything depends on something else, that everything is interdependent. There's nothing that exists independently of everything else.
Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Shanti Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. Per il potere della verità, pace, gioia, ora e sempre.
For the power of the truth, peace and joy now and forever. For the power of truth, peace and joy now and always. From a deep state of bliss and emptiness, for the benefit of every being, we arise with a coarse body, one face, two arms, ready to interact with every being in every circumstances. We take the commitment to follow our path, to practice the perfections, develop our qualities, to uphold the Dharma, the Sutra, and the Tantra, and to act in a positive and virtuous way in every action that we do.
Lama kuncho sumla kyabso chi rang ni la sel do tril sung ne che dong a che sung yer che ta da dom ge cho kundu chi shin ro ten che ador na di tso nam kra ge we tso Cinye sapate ignor toda Norbo panzo shambal harakene Lame lamge rimpatar cinsho Ni modele tsendele Ni meko delekshin Ni centacto delecpe Concho sum ki chingilo Concho sum ki ngodrub sol Concho sum ki trashisho.
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Before we conclude, I want to ask for a moment, since there's a connection among us, there's a particular power. Let's do a dedication for my grandfather, whose name is Roberto, who's in the hospital in Brazil.
Rowe neni malupa takto chungwa mebrasho menama tudan dembada sanga deju drupayi kandro simbo la sopa ninje semdan dengyuruchi chonama kuna ludan sem dunga neba chinyepa teda dagi sonamanki Dega gyatso to parasho Dewa kuntu yanda lama dan drame cheki pela longche chi sada lamge yende rab dorje change kopa nyur tobe sho shide semjo rinpoche make panama ke gyurchi kepa nyambra me payang kongne konto pelwar shon Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshi Ninsen takto delekpe kuncho sumke chingi lop kuncho sumke ngodrubutso kuncho sumke trashisho
Trishidele. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Sincerely. I don't know if I don't know the program. I don't remember the program. If I'm coming, not coming. Normally, no. I say normally because everything can change. But in the next coming the near future, we'll be in Albagnano a lot, and then Lama Gangchen reminds us always to make our holidays holy days, and make our holidays holy days. To try to dedicate time to meditation, to learning new things, having healthy moments, new reflections. So all of you who have the possibility and want to come to Albagnano for a day, for a week or a month or whatever, however much time it is. Anyway, we'll do all the practices via streaming. But if you can cut out some time, to follow, to participate, it will be very beneficial. We'll see you soon. And like Lama Gangchen would say often, we see you. See you soon. See you always. Thank you.